the Glazers and their huge withdrawal from Manchester United, and why this is such an important point, because there will be people out there who will go, well, they're the owners of Manchester United, they're selling a share in Manchester United, and therefore they've got every right to take money out of Manchester United. But the reality is they are leechers. They are leechers, and they are actually making our future more unstable by what they're doing with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So we'll talk about that. 1.25 billion going out of the club, 650 million of it going to the Glazers from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We'll talk about why this is such a shambles and a disgrace on the Glazer part, of course, because it's very important that we're aware of that. There was a great article by Henry Winter yesterday saying that the change of CEO is very important, but of course, there is still a Glazer issue there, and therefore Manchester United fans may still be protesting, may still be unhappy at United. We're also going to be talking about the finer detail of what's going to happen with the director of football. Paul Mitchell's been mentioned, Dougie Freedman has been mentioned, Michael Edwards has been mentioned. We'll talk about what's actually happening there as well. And also we've got some news on when we're expecting this deal to come and be announced from Ineos. Could be tomorrow, could be later today, could be Monday, but we're certainly into the final few days of it. And a big update coming in from the Mirror. Remember, the Mirror and certain journalists at the Mirror have been very close to the Ten Hag side of things. A big update coming in on Jadon Sancho, who effectively, unless we hear anything else, and there are, of course, always two sides to a story, unless we hear something else, Jadon Sancho is effectively refusing to train with Manchester United. That to me is incredible, absolutely incredible. Lots of people getting involved. Don't worry, I've got lots of I've got a laptop here. I've got my stuff on the screen here, so we won't miss any of your chats. Alfie says, "Hi Mark, just watched last night's show, and as a Liverpool fan, from my perspective, I would want Ten Hag to go, as I see him as a threat." Well, that's a great. Thanks for a super chat, Alfie. But that's a great point. We were talking about this last night. If fans of rival clubs want us to get rid of a manager, they will say keep the manager. Why is it so many rival fans are saying sack Ten Hag? It doesn't make sense. They wanted us to keep Ollie because he was crap, and yet they want us to get rid of Ten Hag. And I think that says a lot about maybe he is the right guy. But look, let's start off with this big story. I don't know whether many people are going to get this. I hope you do get it, or at least get my point on this. James Ducker in the Telegraph last night came out with an article saying that the Glazers will take £650 million from the deal with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. 25% is what Sir Jim is going to buy. 1.25 billion is what he's going to pay for it. Half of that goes to the Glazers, half of it goes to the shareholders. This is bad news for me, because I would rather he was buying I'd rather he was buying 25% from the Glazers, because that would reduce their 69% to below 50%. What he's actually doing is he's buying 12.5% from the Glazers and 12.5% from the shareholders, which takes the shareholders percentage down from 31% to 19%, and it takes the Glazers shareholding from 69% to 57%, meaning that they have still got the majority ownership. This is known and predicted, and the Glazers will stay as majority shareholders. But the big issue I have is that the Glazers are effectively taking money out of the football club. This is the problem I had at the start of the year, and many of you had as well. 650 million quid going out of the club into the Glazers' pockets. No wonder they've not been taking dividends for the last 2 years. You've had Manchester Evening News, the Telegraph, the Times saying, oh, the Glazers won't be taking any dividends this year. The dividends were about £30 million a year they were taking out. They're just about to take 650 million quid. 650 million quid. Somebody said, are you in bed with Ten Hag? It would make me laugh if Ten Hag's head just appeared from that bed. That would be amazing. I would have broken the internet with that. Someone was probably going to clip that in now. What's going on? Hi Mark, what would you do? Glazers out, says Kibby. Well, I want to just work through this, because what I'm saying here is that the Glazers effectively are taking £650 million out of the club. And people will go, well, no, they're not. They're not doing that, because they're actually entitled to sell part of the club and take the money themselves. They're not entitled to anything. The debt was their entitlement. The dividends was their entitlement. This is just more cashing out of Manchester United, and it should be called out for what it is. This deal is the Glazers keeping control of Man United and cashing out a little bit of money again. It's what they've done with dividends, it's what they've done with debt, and it's what they're doing again. This is just more cashing out from the Glazers whilst maintaining control. 650 million quid into their pocket for 12.5% of the club. They lose no control. They lose no, they get somebody who wants the club, who's going to probably do a lot of work for them. It's incredible that people don't see this for what it is. This is what they wanted all along. They wanted to retain ownership, get somebody to put money in and survive that way. And that's exactly what they're going to do. If they cared about the club, then that 650 million would be reinvested into the club. They don't need 650 million quid. They've been living off Manchester United for fucking years. They don't need to take 100 million pounds for each sibling. This is just cashing out. And what pisses me off about it is, and why this deal doesn't work for me, is if Qatar had bought the club, the Glazers get 5 billion, they piss off, and then Qatar own the club and they pump the money in. In this case, they take 650 million quid, they still own the football club, and there you've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who is burning his investment without actually investing into Manchester United. I mean, he's basically giving up £1 billion before he even starts putting money into United. What really should be happening is the Glazers should be saying, look, we're in it for the long run. We're going to work on something and let's put that money back in. But it's just money that goes into the Glazers' pocket, and anything that's associated with Manchester United and money going out of the football club has to be called out. They're basically bleeding this club dry again. And you will get people saying, well, from a business sense, they're entitled to that. They're selling 12% and they deserve to get money. But we're not a bloody business. We're a football club. And I'm tired of seeing Manchester United just used as a bank by the Glazers. Remember, they've never put a pound in. They've never put a pound in. They bought it on debt. The increase in value is because they bought us on debt. Everything that they've done with this football club has cost us money, and now it's costing us money again. I would not have been comfortable with them getting 5 or 6 billion anyway, because I don't think they deserve it. But at least if they've got 5 or 6 billion, they piss off forever. This is a kick in the nuts. This is 650 million pounds into the Glazers' pocket that they walk away with, and then they stay as our owner as well. It's the worst possible scenario, because if they go, they get their payoff and they piss off forever. But with this, they get a payoff and they get to stay. It's so frustrating. And that money could be used in a better way. And this is why I never really wanted a small part investment, because they end up paying the Glazers for the privilege of renting a bit of Man United in the hope that they can rent a little bit more in the future. And they get richer and richer and richer. And, I agree with what Ban says there. Football is business, sad but true. Until days are gone, this will continue. But this is what the Glazers are about, yeah. I actually read a United fan today saying, I hope that the Glazers reinvest some of that £650 million. I nearly choked on my cornflakes. You're talking about, you hope the Glazers reinvest some of the 650 million quid. 4 of the Glazer siblings wanted to sell. It's only Joel and Avram that want to stay because they think they can make a little bit more money. They have never invested any of their own money in 20 years in this football club. They are not going to take 650 million and go, you know what, Sir Jim, keep it. Put it back into the stadium that we've let rot. That's not going to happen. And it needs calling out. It's so important to call this out. They're staying in control of this football club. They're taking 650 million quid out of it for their own pocket, and they won't put anything back in. The reason we need to spend 2 billion on the stadium is because they let it rust. The reason we need to spend 1 billion on the infrastructure is because they've let it rot. And then they're going to take 650 million quid for their own pocket and sit back and watch United in hundreds of millions of pounds of debt, miles behind, having to spend money that they've got. I find this incredible. I find this absolutely incredible, actually, when you think about it. They were meant to be selling all of the club and pissing off. They've sold a bit of it so they can make a bit of profit, not put any into the club and let somebody else pay for it. Disgusting when you think about it like that. They haven't left, they're staying in control, and they're taking money out of the club and they're not going to put it back in.